Donald Trump's appearance on Fox and Friends this morning wasn't just a disaster because of the answers that Donald Trump gave to the questions asked by the Fox host, but because viewers of the show submitted their own questions for Donald Trump, including two kids who had the simplest possible questions for Donald Trump. I'm talking about the simplest possible questions, and still Trump, as he always does, found a way to humiliate himself. It absolutely backfired. He made himself look stupid. It was a mess, and we are going to get into all of it. Before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and want to join the community that we are building on this channel. It means a lot to me, and it really goes a long way in supporting what we're building. Now, like I said, Donald Trump just in a complete state of chaos and a complete meltdown during this Fox interview, but it got worse when he was asked these questions. Let's take a look.
I want one immediately.
So she's part of the family that produces these fruitcakes, and she had a question for you.
Yeah.
Here's Paula.
Good morning, President Trump. My name is Paula Parker Claxton. My family owns a wholesale and retail fruitcake bakery in Claxton, Georgia. When you're elected President of the United States, what plans do you have to curb the rising cost of operating a small business, inflation, and labor costs?
I'm going to get your energy down to the lowest it's been. We're going to get it down by 50% immediately. Those ovens that you use are going to be half price. You will be so happy because I'm bringing it down with energy.
You're going to allow gas
energy, and we're going to allow gas stoves, all the gas stoves you want. That's the other thing. They're restricting all the good stuff.
Yeah.
They're restricting it. You're going to have a beautiful gas stove, and you're going to have, mark my words, your energy costs will be 50% down. That's going to bring everything else down. You're going to love Trump.
Terrific.
Energy seems to be the thing that Donald Trump, along with fear-mongering about immigration, wants to be talking about the most in this campaign. And it's clear why. Not because Trump actually thinks this is a way to improve our economy. Donald Trump hasn't extrapolated out any real idea or substance to why getting energy costs down by 50%, something he hasn't explained how he will do, will really impact the lives of day-to-day people in America. But what we continue to see Donald Trump do is go back to these same talking points. Gas stoves and cutting your cost and logs. He's talking about a lot. I don't really understand it. Clearly he doesn't either. But this is exactly what Trump's campaign has come to. It's just him rambling about issues that he doesn't seem to understand in any real way, and of course has no substantive policy on. And that's a lot of what this was. Now, Donald Trump was also asked about his prior administration, not just his potential upcoming one, which of course we are not going to allow. But when he was and asked about what he would change, he said this.
So, Mr. President, we got a question from my home state of Texas. This is Don. He has a question about accomplishments.
Good morning, Mr. President. My name is Don Albright. I live in Katy, Texas. My question is, what is something that you did not accomplish in your first term that you would like to accomplish in this term?
Well, you know, we had a great first term. We had the greatest economy we've ever had. We had the strongest borders we've ever had. We rebuilt the entire U.S. military. Unfortunately, they gave a lot of it to Afghanistan in one of the worst times ever. I think the biggest thing for me in terms of government is great people. I had great people. I had a lot of great, like Bob Lighthizer and Trade. We had great people. But I had a couple of clinkers that I would not want again. And I didn't know, you have to understand, I was there 17 times in my entire life. All of a sudden, I'm president. I'm saying, wait a minute. And people are recommending different people. Of the people, usually we got it right, but there were some ones that we didn't get right. I now know everybody in Washington. I think it's been enforced. I know people in Washington that nobody ever heard of.
Now you'll be the most experienced president.
I think I'll be the most experienced guy. I know the good ones, the bad ones, the dumb ones, the smart ones, the loyal ones,
right.
The people that want to.
What about the list of the dumb ones? Let's hear that.
Oh, I give you a list.
All the people that were involved.
Most of them are the people that.
So the guy who always said that he knew the best people is now admitting that wasn't the case. Now, of course, we know there were some pretty terrible people in Donald Trump's administration, but I don't think him and I are thinking about the same people when we're talking about who was bad in that administration. And of course, the name that comes to mind first is General Mark Milley, who is outwardly and publicly talking about the danger that Donald Trump is to democracy. We saw in Bob Woodward's new book, and we are having some new confirmed reporting about how General Milley is discussing the threat that Donald Trump is. I would say to General Milley, we'd love to to hear you say that on video, maybe a little campaign ad for Kamala Harris. I know that breaks with tradition, but if now is the time to do it, now is certainly the time to do it. But Donald Trump talking about the people who were terrible in his administration are really just the people who opposed him and called out his lies and have since talked about what a disaster he was. And of course, he's not a big fan of that because he's such a narcissist. He is so incapable of taking any level of criticism, and it's what makes him so dangerous. And it's what makes him so much more in decline than he has ever been at this point in time. And it's why when he's even asked simple questions, like we're going to see by this kid right here, he can't even give an answer that makes sense and really just demonstrates how stupid he is. Let's take a look.
Except death.
So you like kids? Here's a 10-year-old from Tennessee. He has a question for the 45th president.
President Trump, I'm Daniel, and I'm 10, and I'm from Tennessee. What was your favorite president when you were little?
Who was your favorite president when you were little?
So I liked Ronald Reagan. I thought he was, look, I didn't love his trade policy. I'm a very good trade. I've made some great trade deals for us, the USMCA. That wasn't his strength, but he had a great dignity about him, Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. You could say, there's our president, more than any others, really any of the others. Great presidents, well, Lincoln was probably a great president, although I've always said, why wasn't that settled? You know, I'm a guy that, it doesn't make sense. We had a civil war.
Well, half the country left before he got there.
Yeah. But you'd almost say, like, why wasn't that? As an example, Ukraine would have never happened, and Russia, if I were president. Israel would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. As you know, Iran was broke. They wanted to make a deal. Mm-hmm. I told anybody buys any oil from Iran, you're finished. You know, you can't deal with the United States. Nobody was buying oil from Iran. They wanted to make a deal. Now they have $300 billion in cash. Biden has been, and her, I don't know if she was involved in it, but she's terrible. Hey, look, remember this. She was the border czar. She never went there.
Right. So there's a lot going on in that answer. He was asked who his favorite president was when he was a kid, and his first answer is Reagan, who was elected in 1980. I don't think you were a child then. Okay. But then he says probably Lincoln, and then asks why he didn't stop the Civil War before it happened, or why he let it happen, or why it even started. Does Donald Trump know anything about American history? This is what I say. I would love to see another debate, not for Kamala Harris to grill Donald Trump on specifics, but to just ask him really basic question. Like, what are tariffs? What started the Civil War? He is completely out of it and continues to demonstrate how stupid he is. And of course, he pivoted to talking about the border at the end because he has no real substance. All he can do is fearmonger. He didn't even really answer the kid's question because, of course, he can't answer questions. But he was asked another question by a viewer, a young guy who submitted a question, and it was almost as bad. Let's take a look.
President, we got a fun one.
But we'll fix it.
We got a 6-year-old from Massachusetts, and he wants to know about your favorite animal. Let's watch.
Mr. President, my name is Briar. I'm 6 years old. I live on a farm in Massachusetts. What's your favorite farm animal?
Favorite farm animal?
What's the animal?
Well, this guy grew up in the city.
I'll tell you what I love. I love cows. But if we go with Kamala, you won't have any cows anymore because you're not allowed. I don't want to ruin this kid's day. But I love cows. I think they're so cute and so beautiful and so protective. But according to Kamala, who's a radical left lunatic, you will not have any cows anymore. So we have to vote her out.
What is happening? What is this campaign? We always talk about how Trump is the worst candidate in the history of presidential politics, but this is also surely the worst run campaign. Is their closing message with 18 days left to go that Kamala Harris is coming for your cows? What does it even mean? In what context? What are they trying to talk about? I know he's probably fear-mongering about climate change and how we don't want our country underwater and we don't want to continue to see devastating hurricanes that are caused in great part by climate change, like Milton, like Helene. No, Donald Trump doesn't care about that. And he's just talking about cows now. This is a guy who needs some serious help. And when he's on teleprompter, he's a little bit better. Of course, he's not good really any of the time because he's just so deranged at this point. But we saw some of that derangement last night at the Al Smith dinner, in which he did have a teleprompter to read off. But Donald Trump broke a little bit of news about that dinner. This clip right here.
You know, we have seen historically a lot of Democrats, they turn to the guys at Saturday Night Live or The Tonight Show. They write all their material. Your material was real funny. Who wrote it? Who helped you with it?
Well, I've had a lot of people helping. A couple of people from Fox, actually. I shouldn't say that, but they wrote some jokes. And for the most part, I didn't like any of them.
Did you receive some highlights? I think you did great.
Go ahead.
Watch.
So, of course, none of the jokes that Donald Trump told last night were funny. So I'm not really upset that Fox wrote some great material for him. But can we just talk about the conflict of interest here? Imagine if Kamala Harris said, oh, yeah, that speech I gave last night, Rachel Maddow wrote it. She did a great job, because Rachel Maddow does do a great job. But Fox is always, like, they are obviously his propaganda network, but they're outwardly and openly helping him with speeches. I guess maybe he can have friends if he wants there, but boy, they're just rubbing it in your face at this point. They are unabashed about it. They do not care. And it's just ridiculous. It needs to be called out. That's what we're doing on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around in the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.